This is Coach Jason Ballard, and I'm a business wingman. Over the years, I've learned a lot from working in our family construction business, serving as a senior officer in the United States Air Force, and running 12 different organizations around the world. Many people helped me get to where I am today, and it's my mission in life to serve as a personal wingman to others. That's what this podcast is all about, providing knowledge, tools, resources, and mentorship to help people soar to their highest altitude. Well, welcome back to the Soar Higher podcast. This is your host, Coach Jason Ballard. It's a real privilege to be with you today. Today, we've got another great episode in store for you. Today, we're going to learn about investing, how to become wealthy. Who doesn't want to become more wealthy and live a better life, retire early, and really achieve all of your dreams, right? So today, we're going to find out how. Today, we have the privilege of having Stephanie Walter on the show. Let me tell you a little bit about Stephanie and her very impressive background. Stephanie is the CEO of Airbay Wealth, is a capital raiser, syndicator, author of a new book, Shattering Money Myths, How the Wealthy Invest. She recently retired and sold her insurance agency of 16 years by following the key principles she teaches professionals to use every single day. She teaches professional people just like you to unlearn what most of us have been wired to think about money and re-educating people on attaining lasting wealth. Stephanie lives with her husband and young son in Colorado. Stephanie, real privilege to have you on the show. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
No, you have a very impressive background and in a career, and I think you are just going to be able to add a lot of value to all the listeners out there in how to think differently. You know, we're in a different world now, in a different age, and we've got to think differently to navigate around inflation and recessions and bad politics and all the other things that happen in the world around us. So, thanks for all the great work you do, and look forward to having a really good conversation.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, help the audience get to know you a little bit. Tell us a little bit about you and your background, how you got into this, and why this was important for you to do these things in life.
Okay. Well, as I mentioned before, I was an entrepreneur. I owned an insurance business, and I subsequently, along with that, I bought single family real estate because that was sort of what I'd been taught to do, kind of to buy rental real estate and kind of wait for it to appreciate for the 30 years and then go ahead and take your income out of that when to basically retire. But I'd learned about syndication by going to a boot camp, and real estate syndication is just really a group of people all getting together to buy a piece of commercial real estate together. And I thought that was a fascinating concept, and I kind of dug deep in that and learned about commercial real estate, completed some syndications, decided my skill was really raising money. And by that, I ended up working with a lot of investors, wealthy investors, and noticing that they were doing things differently than I was and that most people were doing. And it took me a while to kind of piece together what they were doing. But once I did, I restructured a lot of the things I was doing. And within 3 years of doing that, I was able to retire. And last year, I had a pretty free year, I guess, as far as we had one closing our last closing of real estate happened in July of 2022. And so I decided I would write a book, just that kind of encompass all of these myths that we're taught to think about money a certain way, and maybe introducing some ideas in which people might question or, look at their money differently and do something differently with their money.
Wow. That's pretty amazing. So I can tell you're very passionate about this. Like you've poured your heart and your soul into this and studied and went to boot camps and really learned a lot and broke out of some everyday norms of that most people are thinking about in terms of real estate and wealth. How did you get so passionate about this? How did what happened one day you woke up and you're like, man, I'm just all in on this is my passion, this is my life, I'm moving forward. How did that get started for you?
I think I've always been really passionate about being an entrepreneur. And it's just this, I feel like it's just stepped me through this one step at a time. Like, okay, I'm going to start doing syndications. But then I got kind of sidetracked by working with these wealthy investors and really learning from them. And then once I started implementing what they were doing, I know my wealth drastically changed. And so then my vision and my passion came into telling people how to achieve, how to do the same thing, and how to look at what we're kind of taught. You know, if we're not really taught anything about finances, but what most people do, to question that. And that's why I wrote the book, and that's really my passion right now.
Very good. It's evident. It comes out. You're definitely a passionate soul for sure. Well, let's kind of dig in a little deeper. I've got some more questions aligned around, like wealth. Wealth can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. How do you define wealth and building wealth, and how do you know you've become wealthy or doing things like the wealthy? How do you define that?
Well, for me, and that's a good question because many people define wealth in different ways. But wealthy to me is having the freedom. So, what for me specifically, when I was able to replace my business, my working income, which was my business income from being an insurance agent, once I was able to replace that income with passive income, then I knew I was able to sell my business. And then, it's really the freedom to do what you want to do. So for me, that was replacing my income so that I could do, what I was really passionate about every day. And, but it's different for every person. Even a little bit of wealth um, can give, I advocate that people just give themselves more freedom. So you generate some passive income that eventually could replace your income, is really the way that I think I would define that.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I've talked to people about wealth and business. As a business coach, I work with people all over the world that are, in business because they feel like they can do bigger things in the world, better things in the world, better than other people are doing it, and give themselves the best opportunity to achieve their dreams and achieve bigger things than versus working for somebody else in a kind of a quote unquote day job, right? And a lot of people, some of the trends that I see and hear when I talk to people is the ability to earn money to where they can pay for the things they want to pay for, put food on the table, send their kids to school, and do that in a way where they don't have to stress and worry about getting up every day and having to go do a bunch of stuff where everything's depending on them and and the burdens on their shoulders, where that burden's kind of relieved. They've built things, put things into place. They've got mechanisms, through whatever types of investments or businesses or whatever that are driving their ability to live whatever lifestyle that is, whether it's a big ritzy lifestyle or just more of a more modest lifestyle, but they're free of that stress and burden of having to feel like I got to crawl out of bed, drive to work, do a day job, barely get by, barely, hope nothing breaks on the car this month so I can put $1 in the savings account or whatever, right? And once they can feel kind of like they break free of that and they have some breathing room, it's a whole nother level of living. And do you see that in your work?
Yes, I mean, I think that when you can relieve some of those pressures, then people are not driven. I call it the golden handcuffs that people have,
Yeah.
that they're doing the job because they have to do it because, there are no choices. But generating income that's passive or, planning in that way to get them true wealth, then they have, that burden is taken off of them. And then I think that people are able to contribute to this earth in a much better way, because if you're following your passions, hopefully you're helping people. And if everybody's helping people, it's a much better place to be, I
Yeah,
think.
it's hard to give away what you may not have to give, right? And I think most honest, decent people in the world want to give. They want to because it feels good to give. We all want to feel good. We all want to, enjoy life and listen to music, drink a few drinks, come and go, take vacations, go travel places, and do things, right? And people like giving their time, giving their money, giving, something to somebody that can help somebody else that maybe less fortunate than them, right? But it's hard to be in a position of giver if you're the one always receiving because you're in a tough situation and you're in receive mode, right? And it's very powerful. And just making a few different decisions, just learning and thinking differently can be all that it takes to shift your mindset into being able to do more of that in different, bigger, better ways. So I want to ask you, you talk about in your studies here and in your book, people have to unlearn things they have learned throughout their life about money and making money. Then there's some myths out there that we've got to overcome. So, talk to us about these myths. What are the things we need to unlearn? What are the things that are, programmed in our brains from a general standpoint that may not be the right way to be thinking right now?
Well, I think one of the biggest lessons I learned was from a wealthy investor. And most people believe, well, the reason a wealthy person gets wealthy is because they choose to invest in very high risk, high return scenarios. But actually, the wealthy people, there's nothing further from the truth.
Hmm.
They are very calculated. They manage their risk incredibly well, and they do not look at a high risk equals high return. They look at an asymmetrical risk, which means that they invest $100, they want like a $10,000 return. The returns are very asymmetrical for them. But yes, that's one of the first myths. So then that would go into another myth, which is the 401k myth. Everybody you talk to your financial planner, they ask you about your risk tolerance, your time that you have to invest, all of these things. And so you are taught that the more risk you're willing to take with your money, the more money you're going to receive. And I believe that is a fundamentally flawed idea to begin with.
Yeah. Well, if people doubt that, go look at your 401ks today. Go look at your, mutual funds or, maybe even insurance sponsored investments, go look at those traditional types of things today. And are you much better off today than you were 5 years ago? Probably not. Why? Because of the volatility, because of the things that you're talking about, right? Um,
Mhm.
Different world, and you've got to you have to adapt to the situation at hand, right? When I was in the military, we'd be, deployed all over the world. And every time we deployed somewhere, it was always a different situation, even if it was in the same country. If we were in one part of the country of Iraq, and then we went to another part, it's a different situation. and you've got to adapt to the conditions on the ground in order to be as successful as possible, so you can make the best decisions in that. And so how do how do you unlearn that? So you learn these things over time. These are traditional teachings of investment folks. How do you start unlearning that? How do you make start making those changes?
I think the biggest answer to that is changing mindset.
Hmm.
You have to be prepared to change your mindset. We're taught, I mean, this 401k idea, I'm not totally against 401ks, but I believe that a 401k should just be a small part of your retirement strategy. So if you are basically wanting to, invest in other things at the same time, you need to open your mind up at what those other investments could be. They're not the reason that the financial sector is what it is because there's people are making a lot of money on the 401ks. They're making a lot of money on your fees. They're making a lot of money with your financial planner who gets a percentage of however much you have invested. So those are powerful ways that they're motivated to keep you in that system. So say you would find something that's outside of that, and that everyone's like, well, I need to ask my financial planner. Well, your financial planner is not motivated to have you take $100,000 out of your investments or away from your investments that he's managing to have you put them somewhere else. So it really takes some responsibility. I really advocate that people take more responsibility for their money
Hmm.
rather than leaving it with a financial planner and hoping in 30 years that they have enough money to retire with.
Yeah. Well, that's a great point. A lot of people have financial and wealth planners because, they're not experts in all things money and investing and stock markets and bonds and when to invest and how to invest and all the strategies. Most people are just waking up, going to work, dealing with their kids and families and living life, around them. And they don't have time to really keep up with it to make good decisions. So they empower, somebody that does do those things. That's a professional planner. And, I think there's a lot of great planners out there that help their clients make more money than they would have on their own if they were trying to be a day trader or whatever that may be. But when you get into the real estate side of things, commercial properties, apartments, et cetera, people aren't experts at that either. So how do you know what's a good investment if you want to take $100,000 and you're been in the workforce for many years and you've got some 401k, but it's not performing that great and you're starting to second guess what's going on. You want to put a little bit more power in your own hands to diversify and maybe take advantage of some market opportunities. How do you know what to do in the real estate space? Like, most people aren't experts at that. How do they learn? How do they connect with the right people that can help them make good decisions there with their money?
I mean, there's a lot of information on the internet,
Well,
which is,
that could be
the
good or
best.
bad. Yeah.
They could come to my website. I have a great deal of education about how to get involved in syndications. Um, there's a great deal of regulation. So there'd be like key questions to ask. And I think you could find that on my website. You could even find it going on the internet. What are questions you need to ask as a syndicator? You can find someone who's done this before and someone like me who could talk you through what questions you need to ask to someone before you get involved in a deal. And the funny thing is those questions are very similar from deal to deal. So once you do know them, you know them. Um, and but there are also other, ways of investing that's outside of the stock market and that there's low risk and high return type of scenarios, but they are things that most people have not heard about. And again, you have to talk to people that have experience working with, I call it alternative investments. I don't know if that's the best term. Some people I don't know. Yeah, I struggle with that term, but that's what they are. Right now they're alternative investments,
Yeah.
and there's many amazing strategies, and I've learned a lot of these strategies from my wealthy investors who take advantage of these strategies.
Yeah. So if you're out there and you're listening to the show and you may not be, quote unquote wealthy, sometimes it's intimidating to connect with people that are wealthy, that are investors, that do have kind of this broader strategic knowledge, right? I mean, somebody had to learn at some point. You didn't know some things, and then you connected to people and classes and different things over time, and you built that knowledge base and built a new network of people. So that can be intimidating for some people. So I think you're a great resource, Stephanie, for folks to be a kind of a single point of contact for learning more about these things. Obviously, reading your book's chock full of all kind of good details on these types of things. And then, what types of wealthy people do they need to connect to? What types of investors do they need to connect to? Because not there's some people invest in commercial high rise big stuff. Some people invest in the smaller size duplexes and apartments. Some people invest in class A business buildings. Some people invest in residential stuff. I mean, it's all over the map. But I think maybe a good question to ask yourself is, you know to what degree do you feel comfortable in what is a passion area for you to start the learning process of getting into something like this, starting off maybe a little slow, then building that network out? Is that sound advice, or am I misunderstanding?
No, absolutely. I think I mean, honestly, this book was born from me being on a lot of podcasts and people generally asking me the same questions. So I felt like there was a need for this information to go out. And so I think a great place to start is my book, because I think just after reading this book, I believe that most people will know more than probably 99% of the people out there. And also that they're like, people don't know what they don't know. And by connecting and getting a copy of this book, you are aware of some things that are not taught to you that you need to be aware of, kind of
Right.
like the bad wolf in the forest.
Well, where every good opportunity lies, there's some aspect of negativity that can be surrounded by it. And you just got to be careful of that and navigate that very skillfully, and make the right decisions for you. So we talk about the wealthy in the top 1% and how they think differently, how they operate differently. Give us some insight to what are some of the major differences you see with people that are leveraging their money in those kind of ways versus what I'll call everyday Joe people.
That word leverage is very interesting, because the reason that the syndications I talk about are very successful is because you're leveraging in, just like if you owned a rental property, you're putting, say it's $100,000, you're not putting $100,000 down, you're putting $20,000 down, so you're leveraging into $100,000 investment for 20,000. So leveraging in on appreciating, not depreciating assets, not doing this with a car or but things that increase in value. And quite a interesting little trick that I've learned from my wealthy investors as they do this with insurance products. So
Hmm.
specifically, there is something called premium financed insurance. Most people and I've been on and talked to a lot of people. I'd say 90, I'd say almost 100% of the people have never heard of this before. What it is that you leverage the bank to contribute to your life insurance policy. It is a indexed universal life. So it's a cash value product. But let's use that example I just was using a few minutes ago. You buy $100,000 piece of real estate and you put $20,000 down. So let's use this operates very much like real estate. So you put 20% down on and the bank puts 80% down. So there you've got your 100% participation in a $100,000 investment, but you've only put in 20%. And so this product goes up, but it does not go down. It's based on the stock market, so it is it helps you withstand inflationary pressures because it's going to take the up in the market, but you get a zero return if there's a down market in any year. So this product is super powerful for people to create tax-free income because once this is created, and this isn't something you can go, over to your, not that anything's wrong with your personal insurance agent, but this is a specific strategy that wealth builders like myself are familiar with and have experience setting up. But if it's structured right, it can be something that a bank is basically contributing to your tax-free pension plan. Um, like it does sound confusing, but it is an efficient, incredibly powerful strategy that most people don't know about.
Yeah, I don't think most people know about a lot of the opportunities out there. And so I want to kind of piggyback on top of some of these other, ways of thinking, different opportunities, different things out there that people may not be thinking about. Let's talk about some other things. We're talking about, tax incentives, tax diversification things. Let's talk about, we already talked about some of the syndication, some of the stuff in real estate, but you know, talk to us about some of these other things. What are some other tactics holistically that you can use to round out and diversify your risk in your portfolio in addition to your 401k and maybe some real estate you bought?
Well, I think there's a really great. I heard this somewhere. I just can't remember, so I apologize. I'm not gonna get the source right. But we're accumulating. That's what we do ever since we start working. We're accumulating wealth, right? But does anyone talk about what happens when you're ready to retire in the sense of you have all this money and then this money is supposed to last you, until the rest of your life. But so what are you're accumulating money, but really at the end of the day, that money is supposed to guarantee you an income for the rest of your life. Yet no one talks about, creating with your accumulation money a way of providing you with a guaranteed stream of income for the rest of your life. And that's something that wealthy people do all the time. And there are many strategies in which you can, and that's just basically mailbox money. Like you get a check every month for the rest of your life. Think of that as opposed to I just heard again, I was reading a lot and they said that most people think when they retire that they can take 10% of the accumulation so out every year. It's that number is not what the actual true number is 2.8. So if you have $1 million in savings or 401k or whatever, you have an income coming in of $28,000, and that hopefully will then last you for the rest of your life. I don't think most people are prepared for that. And so there are ways ahead of time to even be my age. I'm 51, And but it's not too late. Someone my age still has the ability to plan for a guaranteed income for the rest of their lives, and that's a powerful thing. Because just thinking about running out of money is, I can't think of a worse fear to have through your retirement years.
Right. Yeah, in the there's no such thing as pensions anymore. I mean, there are a few out there that may be government related. Some of the state and local governments still have a few. Sometimes the first responders have something, or I've even seen where teachers unions and stuff they may have some type of a pension system, but for the most part, for all intents and purposes, like pensions are gone. Like when I was in the military, you stay 20 years, do 20 years, you get, in your words, mailbox money for the rest of your life. You get a portion of that. And luckily, I was still under that system when I retired. And that's part of my strategy for, driving in revenue without me having to go out there and hunt it down and the old hunt and kill days of the caveman. But those things really don't exist. Even the military today, still, they've made changes to their retirement system, and so it's not like it used to be. And there's no pensions, there's no mailbox money options from your employer or wherever you work. And so you look at the volatility of politics, the volatility of our global economy. If something happens overseas, it affects us here at home. Like it's great to be interdependent, interconnected economically. There's a lot of positive things to it, but there's also some downsides where if something happens in one part of the world, it impacts us here, which impacts your ability to grow and accumulate wealth through traditional 401k and investments. And so there's a lot of volatility, a lot of unknowns. I watched my uncle and my aunt a number of years ago. He was an executive at Coca-Cola, made lots of money and stocks and all these perks and benefits. And I saw those things dwindle away as he got ready to retire. They hit a point in the economy where there was a down 5-year period, and he had to move all his money out and put it into like money markets and CDs, and just to protect it. It was the volatility of the market at that time, the timing of it was horrific for him, and he was really nervous and scared about running out of money. But there are other mechanisms for which you can put your money and get a different type of return off of it. Stock market, bonds, all that stuff is great, but think about what your mailbox money needs to be. If you don't have a pension, and you're a little nervous about the volatility of these other investments, then you can leverage insurance products. Now, there's a lot of diversity in insurance products that change all the time. Those are really great shelters and places, as well as real estate. If you connect with some people in the real estate business, like Stephanie, they can guide and direct you in what is a good real estate investment, what is a bad one to get involved, what are the signs, what are the symptoms, what are the things that can help you make good decisions where you can take advantage of other people's money. I learned this many, many years ago from the another great author, a great book, Poor Dad, Rich Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. A lot of those principles you're talking about today, are baked into that book as well. And that book's been out a long, long time. But wow, what a powerful, powerful way of thinking, of leveraging other people's money to minimize your risk and give you the long-term return off of that. Incredible difference it can make.
I agree.
So you talked about mindset. We're talking about getting people started, getting people thinking differently. How do people start thinking differently? Where do you start with mindset?
With mindset, I start with, I have a whole chapter in my book, which is scarcity versus abundance. And I know it's very, people are like, oh boy, that's pretty new agey. But I truly believe that that if you look at the world in scarcity, which is there's not enough money out there for everything. If I win on an investment, then someone's going to lose on an investment. That's typical scarcity mindset as opposed to abundance, whereas there's enough for everyone to do well. There's always an abundance of money. That is a mindset. Like, so say your friend gets a job or gets a promotion or whatever, you're happy for them. You're not like a person in scarcity, is jealous and things like that. So it's a true mindset that needs to change, in which you look at the potential of money and that there is plenty to go around. There's plenty to go around. And I know it sounds silly, but it's truly the way that I think everything comes back down to mindset.
Yeah. Well, to me, it sounds like conquering the land of the unknown, right? Like some things, and then you think you know some things, and then you just flat out don't know things. And in this great big world we live in, what I have found in my travels and adventures around the world is there's a whole heck of a lot that you don't know even exist. And where one door may be opened in an area where you may not be knowledgeable or skilled, that can open up a whole new door of things you don't even know about. And so, um, I'll give you a quick example. When I decided to go into the coaching business a number of years ago, one of the things that crossed my mind is, well, there's already coaches in my town where I live. So how am I going to compete with them? And what if there's too many coaches already? Why would I flood the market with myself and what I bring to the table? That's in a place where there's already a bunch of coaches. And that was the wrong mindset, because then what I learned is that just in my hometown, there are over 50,000 registered small to medium sized businesses just in my region. And I got to doing the math. I thought, well, there's like 15 to 20 coaches. And I started dividing that up by 50,000 people. And, coaches can only take on so many clients before they run out of time in their calendar during the week. So you start doing the math, and I'm like, wow, I've got like 10,000 opportunities to talk to people that are probably never even talked to a coach before. So, that was a revelation for me in how big the needs are in this world, and how you can potentially fill them. And so, if you're out there listening today, and some of this sounds big and bold and different and scary, yeah, it probably is, but only because you may just not understand it on the level you need to. And the opportunity and the feasibility for you to do these things is probably a lot closer than you may think. You just need to learn more about it and understand it differently. And I think that can help change your mind. And so, Stephanie, as we kind of wrap up today in this really good conversation, what are the top three things you want to leave people with that they can take away and go do some next steps after the show here?
Okay. I would say go to my website and get my free copy of my book. You'll be well on your way to learning a lot. Um, Trying to go on the internet and look up some ideas that you find in the book. You'll probably see positive and negative, but I think it's good to see both sides of an argument, and then just become, I think it's more an action of becoming more just aware of your money and, what is it doing in the 401k that you have in what kind of fees you are in charge of your money, regardless of if there's a financial planner or not. Don't give up that power. You can still have a financial planner, but you need to be asking questions like, how much am I being charged every year for fees for your fee, and for if I'm invested in the mutual funds, what sort of fees am I being charged? And that's just the first step of becoming, more accountable to what's going on in your own money. So yeah, those would be my steps, I guess.
No, that's great. I'll even add something to that. In everybody's town, there's probably somebody that's a developer or some kind of an investment type of person that's developing things and managing commercial properties or even some residential properties. In everybody's town, there's probably somebody that does equity venture type capital investments. And so I invite you to go onto LinkedIn or go onto Google and search for some people in your hometown that may fit that description, and then reach out to them. Say, I'm interested in learning about these things. These people are really they're like Stephanie. They've figured things out and they love talking about it. They love sharing it. They want to give away things to help people that want to learn about these types of things. And so, reach out, send them a message, try to, do a coffee or something. Those are simple, easy, low risk things that you can do in addition to getting Stephanie's book and looking at a lot of the things that she offers online for free. She's accumulated a lot of wealth and things that are important to her in her life. And she's, is a good soul and steward of Mother Earth here, is giving this stuff back so people can learn and take advantage of these things and achieve, a level of happiness and an ideal lifestyle that's important to you. And so, Stephanie, thank you so much for all of your great work, all of your sacrifices, all of your wisdom that you're just sharing with people to help people. And of course, thank you for being on the show today. You've been great.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
So, Stephanie, how do people connect with you? How do people contact you and go from there?
The best place is to go to my website, which is www.erbewealth.com. And from there, I've got tons of education that I've written lots of blogs about, really lots of different subjects, but certainly a great resource. But if you sign on to there, you can request a free copy of my book, Shattering Money Myths.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. And that's it for today's show, everybody. Thanks for being here. Thanks, Stephanie, for all your great work that you're doing. And we look forward to seeing you on the next show. Have a good week, everybody.